Sports documentaries are having a moment. The Last Dance wrapped up last night. Now comes Blackballed, chronicling Donald Sterling's last days as owner of the Clippers. You'll see it on Quibi. Joining me, the man behind it, the director of the project, Michael Jacobs. And Michael, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Fred. How about you?
Good, thank you. I've seen it. I loved it. Why did you make it?
Sure. Well, anytime you get a chance to hear from individuals who were a part of a huge scandal like this and that had never had the opportunity to speak before, I just felt like this was going to be a rare opportunity to get to tell a story from the player's perspective for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, when it happened, everybody was shocked, and we know that 5-day period where it occurred to where he was banned for life. But the players have never really had an opportunity to speak out about it from their view, their point of view. And I think that's what made this so incredibly fascinating. What surprised you most about making this?
Yeah, sure. I think just the honesty and the openness that Doc and the players were willing to share with me and then the audience. You know, this was something, like you said, that so much had been written about this, but it was all from Donald Sterling's perspective. So much of the common narrative in the media was about who Donald Sterling was and who this woman was and what he was all about. But, you know, those players during that time period, they didn't even have time to think, let alone respond. And then, you know, they got forced into this situation that was really unfair, where everyone was going to judge how they responded to this action. So, you know, for me, I just was really fortunate that these players were so open and honest and willing to share some of the uncomfortable circumstances that this situation put them in.
J.J. Redick, DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul. Did you get everybody in there you wanted to talk to?
Yeah, we did. I mean, you know, Blake Griffin had already spoken about this scandal before on the wonderful ESPN podcast that Ramona Shelburne did. So other than Blake, we got everybody we wanted. And like I said, what we got from them was just so powerful, and they were so articulate, and they were so, you know, vulnerable that, you know, we just felt really fortunate to be able to get these guys to sit down and share their stories with us.
Did what you learned about Donald Sterling surprise you?
It did and it didn't. I mean, you know, on the one hand, right, there was a lot that was written about this guy for years, about his past transgressions, his housing discrimination practices. You heard whispers around the league about, you know, how he treated the players. But when you sit down with these guys and you hear firsthand just how odd and uncomfortable he made his players feel, and, you know, just how explicit some of his actions were around race, it was really surprising, and they were so forthright in you know, articulating those uncomfortable feelings. And so it just really messaged to me that, you know, these types of situations, especially with professional athletes, you know, we often forget that these are human beings too, right? These are just everyday people like the rest of us, and these things affect them regardless of their fame, regardless of their celebrity. This situation cut right to the heart of, like, you know, who we are as a country. And so, yeah, I mean, Donald got what he deserved to a certain extent, maybe not financially, but in shame and you know, having the team taken away from him. I mean, that's a big deal to, you know, someone like that. So, you know, I think he got what he deserved.
At the time, Clipper players took some heat for their response to the Sterling tape. Did you address that with anybody?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it goes back to that circumstance, right? Like, these guys didn't do anything wrong, right? They're just basketball players on this team. And here they are, you know, forced to respond. And now their response is going to be, you know, that response is going to be judged by the media, by basketball fans, by civil rights activists. But these are professional athletes, right? They're not professional activists. So, you know, they were really torn, you know, but the stakes were so high. These guys were willing to not play. They were willing to walk off the court and not play if the NBA didn't respond in the way it did. And, you know, in the end, they made their protest, and it was a powerful protest. It was something that I think spoke volumes and sent a message loud and clear. So I think they should be commended for their response. Some might argue that they could have taken it further. Some may say that they didn't need to do anything at all, you know, but I think they made the right choice. They did it together. And, you know, there's something really powerful and, you know, historically important about a silent protest like that.
Well, and you made the point during the documentary, they didn't know what to do but they were getting pressure from their friends and their family that they had to do something. Somebody had to make a decision. And sure, I guess you can say that just flipping the warm-ups off and throwing them down and wearing the T-shirt backwards wasn't enough. But they were in a really tough spot here, Michael, because as you point out, they're athletes, and they were feeling the pressure, not just from the NBA, but from society. Do something. That's a tough spot to be in.
It's almost an impossible spot to be in. I mean, there's almost no, there's no playbook for this, right? There's no right answer. They just had to do what they thought was best for them in the moment. And, they say it in the film, they play for each other. They don't play for Donald. And if they had walked away, they'd be, making a decision that would maybe come to haunt them, given that they had one of the best teams in the league that season. This was a circumstance not of their own making. None of this was their fault. And here they are trying to solve this problem. So, yeah, it was an impossible situation. And even just the mere fact that this team didn't splinter off into their own little camps during this moment in time, they should be commended for. And a lot of that is Doc Rivers' leadership, his ability to make sure that these guys were sort of unified regardless of what they did, knowing that if they did it together, they couldn't make the wrong decision, given all of the pressure that was on them to do something.
And Doc Rivers, he was called by the HR department in the Clipper front office and said, get down here. The employees are going to quit. They're crying. They don't want to be here anymore. So Doc Rivers not only took care of the players, he actually took care of the entire organization.
Yeah, I mean, Doc is... he's a true leader, and the Clippers and the NBA and really America should be grateful for him being in the position he was during this moment in time, because he handled this crisis so well. But like you said, I mean, he was putting out fires all over the place, with the league and Adam Silver, with his players, who are now getting so much pressure as to how they're going to respond, when they're going to respond. He's in the middle of the playoffs, so he's actually also just trying to win games and figure out how to beat the Warriors. And then, yes, there are, organizational responsibilities that had never been under his umbrella prior to this, where he's all of a sudden getting these phone calls and he has to go down and make sure that these employees feel like they're being listened to and are giving some direction about what's happening to this organization and how the organization is going to respond.
As for Donald Sterling himself, I know you ran the clip when he was on Anderson Cooper, and then you found a clip of me talking to him, which ran in the final episode. Why didn't you want to talk to Donald Sterling for this?
Yeah, we considered it, but, Donald had said enough. Donald had his opportunity to express his feelings with the world. And so we felt like it was really important to make sure that this was just the players, and we were going to give the microphone back to the players, and we were going to protect that. Sometimes as filmmakers, we get a little bit protective of the subjects who agree to participate in our films. And in this case, especially about such a sensitive issue, it just didn't feel right to go outside their circle. We really wanted to keep it inside this group and inside, their experiences firsthand, and just make sure that they were the ones who got to sort of have their say, and exclusively their say, in this film.
Michael, it was fascinating. I loved every second of it. Thanks for taking the time and chatting with us.
Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.